Hi, it's Robbie from Southern California. I haven't done an update on my dog kennel. Well, let's step back for a minute because a lot of you know that we set up one dog kennel, which is over there. But today we're going to do this one because it's two dog kennels that were put together. So the dog kennels are 8 foot long, 6 foot in the center tall, and 4 foot wide. So what we ended up doing is buying two, and we decided to go long. Now, I know other people have bought them and they've configured them differently, which is great because they're all done in panels. Well, we decided to go this way. This will keep us up, places to park. Like we had a party this weekend, and I wanted to have more space for around the area, and it's an experiment. I can always change it. Now, because it is two dog kennels put together, it's not 16 feet long anymore, it's 20, because we had extra panels. It's all explained in the other videos. And by putting the extra panels on the side, we gained footage. So now it's 20 foot long, 6 foot on the center, but we did have to tweak the roof a little bit down here, and Gary put some pipes, and then we covered the whole thing. We had to tweak it because it would have been flat. So because we had the extra 4 foot, the extra panels. So by tweaking it and putting on the top, the whole thing is 6 foot. Otherwise, we would have had a duck on the end. I was fine with it, but he said he could change it, so he did. Now, I didn't cover it in tulle. I told you I was originally going to put 1/4-inch wire, which would keep all rodents out. And then I was going to cover the whole thing in tulle and paint it. I never got around to painting it because I ran out of time, and it's not going to make a difference as far as growing. It was only for to look at. It would make it nicer and easier to see in. Maybe next year, maybe during the winter I'll paint it. But we went with the 1/4-inch wires. That added on about $100 extra to cover the whole thing. Now, we made mistakes, and this is why it was good to get it set up and get it going so we would know not to make the same mistakes for next year, though every growing season is different. I'll get into the mistakes in a minute. So we got the whole 1/4-inch wire done, and that worked out really good. Now, I know a lot of you asked me about pollinators, and you want bees to come in and pollinate. The 1/4-inch wire did not allow bees in. We've come up with another idea if we want to let the bees in, how to do it, and we might do it soon, and we'll see how it comes along. But what did come in were the hoverflies. The little tiny bees, they had no problems getting through here. They were all over, and they did actually most of the pollinating. Though I did hand pollinate a lot of the squash, zucchini, anything the watermelons, I hand pollinated those. Some of them I didn't. I didn't even know there was a watermelon growing, and I've got a Korean melon growing there and a watermelon growing there. I didn't hand pollinate those. So the hoverflies did it, or possibly ants, or whatever other little insects came in to get a little bit of the pollen that was in the flowers. So that worked out really good. So it wasn't really necessary to hand pollinate. Few of you asked me, since I was using the same brush, when I hand pollinate the squash, let's say the zucchini, because I had zucchini growing in here, and then I go and I hand pollinate a cucumber or something else, the watermelon, will I cross-pollinate? No, it would be great if it would, but if they're from different families, let's say, it's not going to do anything. So if I put zucchini pollen onto a watermelon and there's nothing else there to get the pollen there, it just won't take. It's like putting dust on it. It won't work that way. Now, you can cross-pollinate, of course, a lot of different squash. Your first generation will be normal. This is how they sell the seeds that are all hybridized. So we're not going to get into all that right now, but your first one will look normal. You'll look like a normal zucchini. But if you kept the seeds, you end up with a mishmash. So, some of them are fine, but that's when it shows up on the next generation. But all of that, hand pollinating using the same brush, was perfectly fine. What's growing here this is a butternut squash that's in here, and this one's going this way, and I think I have the same squash. It's set off into, there was only one plant. It's going that way. It's kind of late in the season. That's why I'll talk about the mistakes in a minute. And I don't know if I'll get any squash that will be viable to store for the winter on that. I did have yellow squash growing in here and zucchini growing in here. I don't know if you can see the peppers. Those are from Walmart. I've got orange peppers, yellow peppers. I've got the red peppers growing all through here. I've got more peppers here. I've got peppers behind me, watermelon behind me. I had a lot of cucumbers. That did really well. And this one's kind of done already, but I've been picking them and freezing them because I make a cucumber drink for myself, like just a refreshing drink. So I froze a lot this year. So I'm gonna say, and this is a tomato plant that came up on its own, and that's what's sitting in my face. That one's in the ground. I'm gonna say I'm really pleased with this. Most of the plants in here are in containers. There's a couple that came up on the ground like the tomatoes. I've actually got, I think, watermelon and some peas that are still growing on the ground. But all in all, I've got the 18-gallon totes, which is the purple one, this one. This is a smaller one. This is from Dollar Tree. They're $5. This one I think is 12 gallons. Behind me, I can't remember how big they are, but they're like 30-gallon totes. I have 2 of them behind me. And I've got a big watermelon, a sugar baby watermelon I've got to get out of there. I also have dish pans in here. Now I don't have those red ones that I told you guys to grab when they were ridiculously cheap, but I've got the black ones and they're 4.5 gallons. So it's like having a 5-gallon bucket almost. They're over there, and I'm going to kind of, as I start to grow more, change a lot of things up that I didn't like the way it grew, or I could do it better. And this is the whole idea of it. As you see, I kept this wall clear, except for this now. I'm gonna let it do its thing, whatever it wants to do, because it's gonna be at the end of life because we're in fall now. That's the butternut squash. But normally I kept this all clear so I can come back here and service or really get the fruit out of the totes. The cucumbers went up here and all through the back. Some of them just grew along the bottom of the totes and through cucumbers, and I picked them off the ground. I still am. But this gave me a good walkway. If things were on this side and wanted to grow up, that was perfectly fine. Why I didn't grow on the outside, which I could have, I have rodents. I have tons of squirrels, tree squirrels and ground squirrels. I easily could have lined this entire thing on the outside with totes or buckets and then let things grow all over the top. So I could have used it on the inside and the outside. But with the squirrels, they would have just come over here, had a great place to hang out on the outside and eat everything. But if you don't have squirrels or rodents of any type that's going to bother anything, then I don't know why you would need a dog kennel, but there could be reasons. Then that's what you could do. You could easily line it on both sides and use this as your trellis, which is a fantastic trellis. And how I tied all this up, simple yarn. As it went up, I would just tie it with yarn. Now the cucumbers went up on their own, and you can see the tendrils. They grabbed a hold of the 1/4-inch wire and the wire itself from the dog kennel, and they just kept on going. So they did a lot of it on their own, as nature would. But then the tomatoes, they're tied up with yarn. And then a lot of the other squash and cucumbers on this side was tied up with yarn. Yarn is cheap. You can go to any dollar store, any craft store, order it online, a whole, roll of yarn for like $1. So that's all you need on that. And that will last you for many, many seasons because you're only tying it up. Let's see, I've got some of them on chairs. Here I can put on the ground because I didn't have to worry about gophers or rodents. So I've got some of my totes on chairs, just because it's easier to maintain and go work and service. And then I've got this one on the ground. So I've got chairs and on the ground. I bought the rack in the front there from Walmart. I don't know if it's doing me any good or not. I actually may move the rack out, I'm still not sure, and continue to line it with more dish pans or the totes. So what mistake did we make? And how did I lose a lot of my garden? Well, I'll tell you. We weren't thinking. Gary wasn't thinking and I wasn't thinking. The first thing Gary thought would be good for me, because we didn't use the original top that comes with this because it's a blackout almost. And we knew that was going to be too much shade because these plants are vegetable plants that need a good 6 hours of bright sunlight, at least. So what he did is he covered the whole thing in shade cloth. Now, you would think that would be good. And maybe if you were in Nevada or Arizona or any place that's super hot all the time, it probably would work for you. But for us, we're in the Southern California area, and though we get really warm during the day, we get really cool at night. And a lot of these plants that I grew in here, like the watermelon, the cucumbers, They really want a lot of sun. I mean, they grow a lot of that stuff in the desert, in Ventura, different areas. They want that sun beating on them, and they want the warm nights. By adding on shade cloth, we darkened it too much. And I noticed right away, I told Gary I'm having a problem. They're not growing right. And we came out here and we looked around, and I sat in here one day and analyzed, there's not enough sun. Now why? Because the wire we put on, the 1/4-inch wire, which is like a sunshade all the way across the plants, even though you can't see it, the plant can see it on its leaves as the sun is going across, was enough like shade cloth. But by putting on shade cloth on top, we've actually shaded the entire thing. So that really hindered a lot of plants, and that set them back. I thought at first I was going to get no cucumbers because we've had cooler nights this year than normal. We only stayed in the upper 50s and in the low 60s. Normally we're in the 60s all the way through summer, and that's what the plants need, but we weren't. So it was getting a double whammy by not getting enough sun and then being too cool at night. So as soon as I told Gary, let's get that shade cloth off, and he ripped it off, I saw immediately within 2 days, the plants just started taking off. So that was a big issue for me. So once we got that off, everything took off. I ended up with a lot of cucumbers. I ended up with watermelon. I did want 10 watermelon, and I think so far we ended up only this year. I only had a few plants in here though. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I only ended up with 4 watermelon here. I've got watermelon growing against the wall, but 4 in here. And my goal, if you want to call it a goal, was in hopes of getting 10. But that's okay. I'll take the 4 because I could have had nothing, right? So what will I do different? Well, no more shade cloth for next year. Am I ditching this now and not growing in it? Oh no, I'm going to be growing in it all winter. I will change this over as the weather starts to cool. It's still too warm. We're still only in fall. We're still going to have really hot days and then really cool days. I'm going to leave the tomatoes for now and see how they grow. I've got Korean melon now growing in here, which is right over here. I love Korean melon. Should have grown more. I only grew 1 plant. So we'll see what we get off of that. I'll collect the seeds from that. So obviously somebody pollinated that because I did not. And I'll leave everything until I see it's at the end. Like when the squash is gone, I will go ahead and get the squash out and compost all this and put it back into the totes and then rebuild the soil and get these going. I'll analyze. I got a 5-gallon bucket there. I've got just flower pots that you get at the nursery here with the peppers in it. They'll probably go all through the winter. So I'm not worried about the peppers because peppers can grow for many, many years. And I'll plant in between things for the winter. I'm going to get brassicas in here. I've got a purple kale over there, curly kale there, and I'll get more of that in here. I'm going to get lettuce in here. I've got purslane growing. I've got, let's see, popolo behind me. Gary loves growing. The watermelon is really trying to take off. We'll see what happens. I don't know if it's going to make any more watermelon fruit or not, because like I said, we're going to run out of time. But I'm going to start to change it over. I love this. Dealing with a lot of rodents, it could be mice and rats, no rodents got in here at all. Now, as I was telling you, if we want to have the bees in here, there is a way of doing it. This dog kennel came with a split door. And buying 2 dog kennels, there's a split door on that end and a split door behind me. Now, if I'm not really worried about squirrels, we can open those split doors. So bees can come through, pollinate and leave, and maybe just open it for the day and at night close it. If I've got squirrels, they can find the split door. Now we could fix it up with sheet metal or something coming out, so if they crawled up, they'd hit it. They'd also have to find out that there are doors there, because they're not that big, the doors. So there are ways of letting the bees in. The other way, we were thinking of making some holes towards the top or the roof and making little doors that open that way, because bees are really smart. They usually will go in the same way and out the same way as they entered, and they remember that. But you know, like I said, I'm looking around, I didn't lose really any flowers because the hoverflies that we have here, they look just like bees, can freely come through here, and they didn't have to compete with the honeybees, and they did their thing. So there are ways of letting those in. As far as hornworms, nope, not a single one. I haven't even found any caterpillars in here. Let's see, did I find anything? I think whitefly once on some lettuce down there, so I simply just took the lettuce out, let it go to seed, and I gave it to the goldfinches to eat the seed top. But as far as any other insects, no, it doesn't have a cement bottom, but the gophers never came in here. I haven't had anything else come through here. It's been really pest-free compared to what I would have out there. If you had squash bugs, if they're bigger than this and you don't bring the soil in, then they can't come through this 1/4 inch wire. Keep that in mind. If you have squash bugs and you want to grow zucchini, that's when you cover it with tulle and you hand pollinate. Zucchini, squash are the easiest to hand pollinate. The flower is so big you can't miss it. So I have no complaints on this. I'm very happy with it. I am going to do things differently next year. I'm going to try to make sure there's no shade cloth on there and get more of a variety of plants in here that I want. I'm really pleased with the peppers. I'm pleased with the squash, and I'm going to keep up with it. I had a zucchini growing in there. It grew a bunch of squash, and as soon as it was done. It fizzled out. I never replanted back in there. And I'm going to think about having plants that grow good in here, whether it's hot or medium. Like zucchini, it doesn't have to be super hot for zucchini. If we stayed in the 50s at night, but we got, it got a lot of sun during the day and we got hot during the day, zucchini will keep on going. It's your watermelon. Like I only planted watermelon back here and some peppers. The peppers are doing fine. I've got peppers growing all over the place. Boy, do I. But the watermelon needed more sun. So I'm going to do a little bit more of a mix. I am growing basically fruit and vegetables that we want to eat. I'm not just going to grow something for fun, because I am concentrating on growing a lot to eat all spring and summer into the fall, as well as freezing. You know we can freeze peppers too, and all the peppers growing here, the red ones, the orange ones, the yellow ones. I bought one package early on in the year. I think it was March. Go back and see that video. I showed you how I processed the peppers, froze and kept all the peppers, but I also processed the seeds and I started growing them. That is such a win-win, because we can buy it and we can grow the seeds and eat the peppers. It's like you don't have anything to lose. So all in all, I'm going to have to say I absolutely love it. Oh, what a beautiful tomato back here. Just absolutely love this garden. Didn't have to think about any pests, any hornworms, nothing getting in here. And it worked out fabulous, to the point where we almost bought a second one to string along here, put it on this place. But I think right now I'm doing good. This one really grew a lot of food. The small one I was using for a lot of different seeds and stuff to grow, and I was growing lettuce. I brought some lettuce in here, and because I don't have any tulle on here, I didn't want to get whitefly on my lettuce. I put it in those boxes that you get, the plastic Sterlite large boxes, and they're like $2, $3. And I made a cover for it, so I've got lettuce growing in here too. So I can't say anything bad about this. Only if you're in an area where it is not that hot, don't cover the top with shade cloth. But if you are in the desert, I think shade cloth may help your plants, or experiment, or just put a little bit of shade cloth on, maybe a couple strips, and see how the plants do. So I hope I've answered most of the questions on here. I am just really pleased. Easy to water, let me tell you that. I don't have to bring the hose in here if I don't want to. I can water from the outside. Stand in here and just spritz it as I walk along. And I only have to come in here when I want to clean it up, pick some fruit, vegetables, and do that. And that's all there was to it. I also keep some watering cans in here, and then I can hand water as needed. When I come in here to maybe pick a tomato or pick some vegetables or lettuce or whatever, or a cucumber, I can see something maybe a little dry, then I go ahead, I got tomato plants growing. I go ahead and with the watering can water. And a thing, maybe a tip, keep some yarn in here, keep a scissors in here or a cutters. So if you look at something that's drooping like this, you can quickly string it and everything is in here. Either just put it out in a little container or put a box in here and have everything ready. So you don't have to go run and get it. Make your life easier. I don't have room to keep a stool in here, though I have a spot there if I want to get rid of a bucket, if I wanted to sit down and service. I usually keep the stool outside. But all in all, this has been a fabulous garden to grow in. And I think one of these, you could easily grow enough for a family of 4. And then again, it depends on what you're growing in here. You can turn this whole thing into a strawberry field if you wanted to, on racks. Or, you know, it's whatever you like to grow. And that's what I always emphasize. Whatever I'm doing is a suggestion, because everybody's got their own climate in their yard. We have microclimates. There's a microclimate here getting the evening or afternoon sun, and there's a microclimate here that's getting more shade even from the tomato plant. This one's getting a little more sun. So you have to kind of analyze, because you're creating different environments for the plants to grow simply by growing other plants. So with that, have a wonderful day, and don't forget to eat what you grow. Bye-bye. There's nothing better than picking a ripe tomato off of your own plant. So good. I think I'm going to make a rice dish tonight and put a nice red baby pepper in there. That's what they were called, baby peppers, or mini bells. Beautiful. Okay. I don't want to be working in here, but now I see brown leaves. I'm thinking, oh, we should take them off. Absolutely gorgeous. Jeez, there's so many ravens. Let's hope we turn the camera on. Beautiful.